Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about science. Over the past couple months, I've discovered that there's two types of people in this world: those who want Sweden to succeed and those who want Sweden to fail. Sweden has done everything they can over the past couple months to keep their society open. They've kept their schools open, their restaurants open, their bars open, and tried to keep as many businesses as possible open too. The idea was to not only minimize damage to the economy, but also minimize damage to the psyche of their population. It didn't surprise me at all that people on the left, who are totalitarians at heart, were cheering for Sweden to fail. But what has surprised me is that even some well-known climate skeptics were also cheering for Sweden to fail. Apparently, when they got scared, their inner totalitarian came out. But before I discuss Sweden, let's take a look at New York, where they did just about everything wrong. About half of the reported deaths in the United States have been around New York City. And the governor of New York has discovered that lockdowns not only destroy people's lives, but they also destroy people's health. Most of the new cases of COVID-19 in New York are people who stayed home. Meanwhile, people in Sweden have been enjoying life out at their favorite restaurants and bars. The architect of Sweden's non-lockdown plan, Anders Tegnell, is now being hailed as the savior of Sweden. He said Sweden's experience had shown that we can keep our schools open, that has not caused any major problems at all, has not caused any problems that we can see. We can keep our society reasonably open without huge effects. Unlike its Scandinavian neighbors in Norway, Denmark, and Finland, Sweden went its own way as the coronavirus pandemic manifested itself in Europe in late February and early March, though new studies show it could have been circulating in the continent in late 2019. You may remember that I reported in March that ICU nurses in Nebraska were telling me that they believed the virus came through there in December and January. So our leading scientists are just now starting to catch up with what the nurses knew months ago. But let's go back to talking about Sweden again. While the countries around Sweden closed their borders, schools, bars, and businesses, and imposed strict social distancing measures, in contrast, Sweden's government, acting on advice from its public health agency and Anders Tegnell, as well as a group of other experts, opted for mostly advisory measures. Tegnell said that the number of admissions to Sweden's hospitals is clearly falling, as well as the number of deaths. As of Thursday, Sweden has 23,918 confirmed cases of the virus and has recorded 2,941 deaths, with over half the deaths occurring in elderly care homes. Sweden conducts around 30,000 coronavirus tests per week. In Sweden, most of the deaths have been in nursing homes, just like in many other countries. I've been pointing out since day one that the key to controlling hospitalizations and deaths was to isolate the population at risk. But the idea of locking down the population at low risk never made any sense. And as Governor Cuomo is finding out, lockdowns don't prevent the spread of the virus anyway. I've been living in Wyoming for the past couple of weeks, but I had to spend the day yesterday down in Boulder, Colorado, where people have gotten even crazier over the last 2 weeks than they were the last time I was there. It all comes down to a matter of choices. The state of New Mexico is run by Democrats, and they're experiencing extreme lockdowns, and one city is under martial law. And meanwhile, next door in Arizona, where I'm going next week, the state is reopening. You can actually get a haircut down there. I will be at my favorite restaurant in Tempe next week, where I was 1 hour before the shutdown order came in March. From day one, I've chosen not to be driven insane by the press. I've chosen freedom over totalitarianism. And I've also chosen to drive to Arizona through Utah rather than my usual route through totalitarian New Mexico. I'm going to finish up this video with a conversation between a journalist and a virus modeler. The disastrously poor work of these journalists and virus modelers led to devastation of the global economy and countless tens of millions of lives ruined. And here they are bragging about their work and how they choose to overestimate rather than underestimate. Their overestimations were a complete disaster and are exactly what President Eisenhower warned about in his farewell address. President Eisenhower warned in 1961 about the grave danger of an academic elite seizing control of public policy. These modelers are completely incompetent, they've destroyed the lives of countless people, and they're patting themselves on the back. These journalists and modelers who created the panic consider themselves to be heroes. We are at a critical point in our history where people need to choose between courage and freedom or fear and totalitarianism. Toto always chooses freedom. Visit him on the web at realclimatescience.com, where he's been pulling back the curtain on junk science and propaganda for a long time.